I watch that set all the time. It's one of my favorite sets that we have. And specifically in the middle of one, my mic stopped working,
Mhm.
and you can hear Gio was like, "Just take my mic," and you can hear me walk up to it and go, "That one's fucking broken too." And I tried to put it back on, and I was like, "Shit."
So I didn't wake up my dog who's like sleeping right down here. So,
Yeah,
cool.
that's also why I'm not inside, because I have 2 cats, and they are
Oh.
a bit to handle.
Are they just like will get in your way if you were doing it inside?
Yeah, they like need my constant attention all the time.
Oh,
So
I see.
if I'm not paying it like full attention to them, they're gonna be like, "What the fuck? Like, who's this?"
Fuck this
What's the deal?
podcast. Give me a belly rub.
Yep, like
Yeah.
they are very well. It's because like I got them at the start of like quarantine, so and they were kittens, like kittens. So they've
Yeah.
grown very attached with how much I've just been at home. So anytime I'm doing something else, they're like, "What the fuck?"
Ah, I see. Okay. Well,
Yeah.
I'm glad that we're here. I think we're officially good to go to get started. Thanks so much for tuning in, everyone. This is another episode of the Scoped Exposure podcast. We are traveling down to Oklahoma to be chatting with Laremy of GIVE WAY. Thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today.
Of course. Glad to be here.
Of course. Yeah. For the few folks at home who might be tuning in, who might not know who you are, can you just tell me, I guess, officially where you're based? Because Oklahoma, there's a bunch of different little sectors, but also tell me what you do in the band.
So I'm Laremy. Hi. Do vocals in a band called Give Way. We are from Tulsa, Oklahoma, but we're kind of all a bit scattered. We all live in Tulsa now, but I'm from Oklahoma City. Danny, our guitar player, he's from this tiny little town in the middle of nowhere, Oklahoma. So over the last year, we've all finally in Tulsa now, all together, one big family. So it's been good.
Yeah, and Laramie's been gracious enough to be doing this podcast in the middle of a move. So we were just chatting before we were recording officially on some of those things, and some cats as well. I'm not sure. Sometimes there's the pre-ramble, which I'm not sure if it'll make the official episode, but we'll have to wait and see once that comes out.
Yeah, whatever works.
Yeah, so Give Way is a band that kind of came onto my radar kind of just before Snow and Flurry 2019. That's where I officially kind of saw you guys for the first time, and I guess out of new bands that I had never seen before, you guys were definitely one of the bands that was, there was anticipation versus just like, I have no idea who this band is. And ever since then, there's been like the constant kind of just like Give Way love back and forth from the Scoped machine, not just from you, but from the rest of the band as well, which I think is really, really cool how hardcore can kind of just bring people together, and then it's like friends right off the bat.
Oh, most definitely. Some of the best friendships I have.
Yeah. So before we get super into the conversation, we got to do the Scoped Bev check. So I'm trying to, again, channel this whole Bev obsession of mine into my podcast and into the universe so we can get some sponsorships for season 2.
Nice.
So I'm rocking a Guru. It's my favorite Canadian energy drink. So they have this like energy water line. And
all right.
And this grapefruit flavor is, I think, the best of the entire kind of flavored energy waters that they have. And I don't see a lot of those, so that's what I'm rocking today.
Sounds refreshing.
Yeah.
Very refreshing. I have my, what did I even get? A cold brew, oat milk, iced coffee thing. They had gingerbread this time. I'd never seen gingerbread like swirl before. So I got that.
Thing.
It's really good. It's really, really good. I had to get my Dunkin'.
Caffeine. Is that a common thing? Just because we don't have Dunkin' Donuts here in Canada.
Oh, really?
No, it's I I think the equivalent for us is like Tim Hortons. So I don't know
Okay.
if you've been
Yeah, we don't have
north enough to have some of those, but I feel like they're kind of equal on the you know, I don't know, like maybe there's someone who's listening who's like no Dunkin' over Tim's or vice versa.
Yeah, I don't know. I've never had Tim's. I go through my phases with Dunkin'. Sometimes I'll like drink Starbucks for a little bit and then I'll go to Dunkin'. My personal opinion, Dunkin' is way better. It's a lot sweeter. That's my problem with it, is it's super sweet
Okay.
coffee. But it's good. It's a nice treat and it's so cheap. This large was like $3.
Wow.
And
yeah.
I'm like, beat that, Starbucks.
Yeah,
your $8 iced coffee or whatever.
Yeah, I think if you're someone who does get the fancy drink, not just like a black coffee, if you go to Starbucks like once a day, that's like
the lattes,
a $5, $6, $7 purchase every day. So eat up your wallet.
It adds up. And I think Starbucks actually recently added like plant-based meats and stuff to their menu. I don't know if that's everywhere. I haven't seen it at my Starbucks yet, but Dunkin' has I think Beyond sausage, like little sandwiches. So
like a
that's
breakfast
cool. And they're
sandwich?
really good. Yeah, like a breakfast sandwich.
Okay.
It's like Beyond sausage, egg and cheese, something. You can get it like without all the extra stuff if you don't want it.
So we're gonna go down a little rabbit hole here, but so when A&W, which is like a big fast food chain up here in Canada, got the Beyond Meat burger, it was like crazy town. Like I remember when it first came out, like they would have signs like we're sold out for the next like 2 weeks. Like people were just, all the veggie and vegan people in Canada were just going mad. And then they brought in that the breakfast like patty or whatever, and then over like I think a 6-month period, it just randomly, like I started to see signs on the menu saying like, oh, we're sold out. And I was like, oh, like that would be a go-to for me in the mornings if I was like strapped and didn't make breakfast. And now I like it's non-existent across any of the places that would do that. So I've been craving the breakfast sausage Beyond Meat patty for a long time now.
Gotta find you at Dunkin'.
Yeah, it's always weird too, because like I was chatting with someone and they were like talking about like shipping food like across the country. I'm like, I don't think that's like really I don't know if that's kosher, like country to, like Canada to US, but I don't know.
Yeah, I've never tried to ship any food, period. I don't trust it. I did have one of my friends in Colorado sent me a Dunkin' iced coffee and a donut in a box as a joke, because I was talking about how bad I wanted Dunkin', and he was like, I'm gonna go to Dunkin' and I'm gonna get you a donut and an iced coffee.
Upright so it's not spilling?
So it was like, well, no, it was like one of the like just little plastic bottles.
I see. Okay.
Yeah. But then like a donut, and by the time it got to my house, it was like rock hard. And Gio was there when I got it, and I think he actually took a bite of it. And it was rock hard, and I was like, I'm not eating that. But
oh man,
so it's possible. Probably not the best transportation for food. It's just through like mail, but
if it's in a can, like a drink, you know, trying to speak things into existence as far as getting Bev sponsorships. Like I see any Bev company will just send a crate or a flat or whatever.
Just like a big
but food is like the problem. It's just like sitting in
food
a box.
Is something else. Yeah, unless it's like plastic wrapped and like vacuum sealed, I don't trust it.
Yeah.
I don't trust it.
I'll
really.
just wait till the time where I can just get that, you know, freshly made, or you know, it's only been sitting there for an hour or what have you.
Yeah.
Well, Laremy, we got a little off topic, but let's officially kind of get into some of the.
We're talking about food and mail and
and Dunkins. So how I start off most of the podcasts to get context around my guests is just asking them how they got into punk, hardcore, just DIY music in general. So take me back in time and kind of give me some of those formative moments for you.
Oh God. So I mean, I guess like, you know, a little bit of everybody who's into like hardcore or whatever. We all kind of grew up on heavy music. So as a kid, I had like my bands I listened to. My first CD I ever got was Linkin Park's Hybrid Theory. So I guess that was kind of my introduction. And also like my uncle, he went to punk shows and because he was really young whenever I was a kid, he was like still in his 20s, so he went to punk shows, and he was into like Korn and Slipknot. He was like obsessed with Korn and like wore Adidas all the time. Would tell me about it, and like whenever I would get like grounded, you know, I would go to my grandparents' house, and my uncle would always be there, and so he would take me to run his errands with him, and we would always go and hit like 3 or 4 like CD stores, and he would run in and like buy a few CDs or like records or whatever and come back and like let me look through them. So
Okay, cool.
it's really just through like family introduction, and like my Hybrid Theory CD was given to me by like a friend of a friend or whatever, and it was just a random CD. Like, this is cool, check this out. So, and then also bands like Breaking Benjamin and like Disturbed and like all of those bands was like my introduction. But getting into like the local music scene, I listened to a lot of like pop punk bands, and like I found the local pop punk scene through this band called Tiger Lily, which shout out Tiger Lily. That band is like, means a whole lot to me.
Near
But
and
I
dear.
found them, oh yeah, I found them like scrolling through Spotify or something, I don't know. And I was listening to Taking Back Sunday, and I was just looking at like related artists or whatever, and it was like some section that was like local artists that are similar, and Tiger Lily came up, and I was like, oh my god, like this band's local and that's sick. And you know, I got really into them, went to my first pop punk show. I had to have been like 15 maybe, I think, and I went to like pop punk shows for a few years, and of course there were kids from like the hardcore scene that would go to pop punk shows because those two kind of intertwine a little bit. So I met some people in the hardcore community, and I had no idea that there was even like a hardcore community at all, or there were hardcore shows. This was my first introduction to just local shows, period. So one of my friends had told me about, oh, like you should come to a hardcore show, there's a free one tomorrow night, like you should come, blah 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 blah. And so I went by myself, had no idea what was going on, and it was a great time. Met a few people. I don't think I could even tell you who was on that show, because like my anxiety was so high because it was brand new. But that was it. After that, you know, I made friends, and that was my opening to what it is now. And I remember it just being like fascinating. I was
Yeah.
like, this is so fucking cool.
Yeah, a very similar, like not only just for myself, but a lot of people who've come on the podcast where they've heard, you know, not only having like maybe a family member who's like, yo, check this shit out, but also like, you know, just thinking that these bands were just like, you know, rock stars, but then also seeing like, oh, there's people kind of doing something really similar, but it's a drive away, and I don't have to wait for the international world tour or whatever for, you know, Linkin Park or Korn or whoever to come through. It's like I can go see this band that's doing the covers of these bands like tomorrow. So that's very cool.
Yeah, it was cool because like I would go to like Warped Tour, you know, or like the bigger shows that would come through, because that's all I really knew about, were like the big tours, was like the bigger bands who are like the Warped Tour bands, and I would see them all on Warped Tour. So I'd go to Warped Tour, and then whenever they would come to like Vanguard or Canes, which are like our bigger venues here, I would go there, and that's all I really knew about. So when I found like local music, I was like, man, these are bands that I really like a lot. Like they're right there, but they're my friends too, and I can go and talk to them about like what they write their songs about, and like what they're inspired by, and like they can like help me out with some of the writing that I want to do, because I've always been like a writer too, but I never wrote a song. So I was like, it'd be cool if I could talk to these guys just as my friends. So that was really intriguing to me, was that like I really enjoy these bands, but I can have like a personal relationship with them too, like a friendship.
Yeah, I think that was some of the you know, going to like certain big you know, either metal or even just metalcore shows when I was growing up in Winnipeg. It was you know, you wouldn't see the band like meandering throughout the crowd and just hanging out. It'd be like they're in some green room, you know, because they're on tour and they're just trying to hang out and get prepped for the show. But when you're at a hardcore show, it's like, hey, like I could literally go up and just chat with this, you know, vocalist or bass player or what have you. And 9 times out of 10, they're just like, yo, how's it going? And they're like super friendly. So I think that is something that is, you know, I think that is the separation from hardcore to a lot of other genres of music, where it is this like everyone is on the same level, you know, just everyone's on the floor, and it's
Yeah.
not like this, oh, I'm going to the show so I can like be with my friends, and then, you know, the entertainment comes to stage and performs for me, and then we go home. It's like, it is a community, and we do get to like hang out. It's been very surreal, honestly, to like have certain people on the podcast that I would see normally at shows all the time, but because of this pandemic, it's like I haven't seen you since this fest or this show or what have you. So
yeah, I think as a young kid too, like just any young person that's like for me anyway, I was an only child, and you know, we're all like the outcasts or whatever, you know, a little bit like, I don't know, just social anxiety, and you don't make friends very well at school or whatever. It was kind of like a safe space. Like you could go and you saw all these people who were very friendly to you and like welcomed you with like open arms, and it was like, oh man, like this is so cool. Like I love music and these guys love music, and I can talk to them about music, and they're just the nicest people I've ever met. So I think as a young person, it's important to like have something like that. You can kind of escape like school or your family or whatever may be going on, and just go to a place that you really enjoy and really feel like accepted.
Sure.
I think that that's really important, and that's why it was pretty cool to me that I could go home and like listen to these bands and like relate to the songs or like whatever, and then I could like go to a show and talk to them because they're just my friends, you know, and just see that they're normal people.
Yeah,
because I feel like with the bigger bands, like especially whenever you're a kid, you know, you idolize these bands that are like, oh my god, like they know what's going on.
Yeah.
They're like the guy, you know what I mean? So it's a lot more personal.
Yeah, it is strange when, like, I think as this podcast has been growing, there's been like bigger opportunities for like larger guests to come on. But I've found that any like, call it bigger guest that I have who has come through hardcore, it feels just as easy to talk to them versus if I was like, I'm just trying to like, if I ever got the chance to talk to any of the Linkin Park guys and be like,
oh my
you
God.
don't know how much your band has influenced not only me, but just like a generation.
Be like starstruck type of thing.
Oh yeah. If it was Mike Shinoda and we were just like shooting the shit, like I would, but at the same time, he is a normal dude, but like he's at that like S tier level that would just, it would definitely be like starstruck, even if we were doing it over Zoom here.
Just like this. Yeah. I would just sit there like, dude, you don't even know.
Yeah.
You don't even know. How do I? And then they're like, you know, tell me. And it's like, oh, I can.
Yeah.
I don't think I can.
Yeah. I think that there are some that I'm like, I don't know if it's so outside the realm of like possibility that could happen, but you know, it's just, it's finding someone to essentially be like, hey, can you ask Mike, you know, or whatever, whoever it is. You know, he is definitely one of those, like, I think that there are some people in called the larger metal or even new metal space that I don't know if they know how influential those early records of their bands were for hardcore kids, for punk kids. Like, I want to, if I ever got the chance to talk to Corey Taylor from Slow 9, be like, do you know like how your vocal style
like what you've done
has influenced like ABCD band? Like, it's crazy. Now we're just daydreaming right now with a lot of those things.
I could go on forever about Linkin Park. Like just that band alone has done so much for me. So
yeah. Do you have since we're on the topic, do you have a favorite Linkin Park song?
Oh, you can't narrow it down by the song.
Yeah. It's usually by, you know, okay, what are your top 3 from Meteor or Hybrid Theory?
So the one Linkin Park song that really always sticks out to me is because whenever I would take the bus to school, they played like this radio station every single morning. And it was one of those radio stations that played like the same 5 songs just on repeat pretty much. Sure. And one of those songs was I think Numb. I'm pretty sure it was Numb. And so I heard it every single morning on my way to school. And sometimes on my way home from school, I would hear it. And then I would go home and put in my like Hybrid Theory CD.
And listen to it 3 times over. That's funny.
Yeah, so that's like the one song that like really sticks out to me every single time. But Hybrid Theory as a whole is like,
front to back, it's like a perfect record. Like it can't really be touched. I always think there are like some of those tracks like definitely got their like radio fame as far as just being played to the world. But there are some tracks even on there that are just like, this is like just as good a song. So we'll get, I want to make sure this is a giveaway podcast and not a Linkin Park podcast.
No, there's like there's in my head, I'm like, have you listened to new Linkin Park? Like, what do you think? Like, I could talk about it all day.
Let's kind of transition back. But tell me I think we've kind of laid the groundwork as far as how things got started for you, which is really, really cool. So let's kind of transition to the band that you're doing vocals in, Give Way. Is that your first band? Tell me the origin of that and how that came to be, and kind of for anyone who hasn't seen you guys live and know the Give Way vibe.
So Give Way actually started as a different band. Didn't last very long, but they actually played I had like a 21st birthday show, and which Cold Shoulder actually played, which was unbelievable. It was so awesome. But they were called Impede at the time, and totally different members. I think the only members that are still in Give Way are Danny and Aaron. I think, like, I'm not in the band and I know that. But just Danny and Aaron, and the other members like wanted to do some other things. They're in some other bands, and so Aaron came to me and was like, hey, like, have you ever done vocals before? Or, like, do you wanna try this out? Blah blah blah. And it started as something really like weird for me, because I had like done like little guest spots at shows or whatever, but I had never done anything like be in a band. I wanted to, but I had no idea how. I didn't have anybody really teach me how to do vocals at all, because I was too like in my shell and embarrassed that like I didn't want anybody to hear me. So I would just practice in my car or wherever. But I had no idea. So it was very new to me. And we used to practice in this little storage unit. And I'm like thinking back on like all the times Give Way has had, and it's really been a process, because the members have changed so many times. And it started out as one lineup, and then we had Adam Jenkins for a little bit, and then after that, that's when Gio and D joined, and that's when we really like found our sound. I feel like that's when everything really like came together. So for the first like year or so, I think it was really just getting comfortable with each other, because I didn't know Aaron or Danny at all when I joined. So it was, not only was I doing vocals for the first time ever in my life and like writing songs for the first time ever, but I was also doing it with people that I really didn't know very well. So it was hard. It was really hard, but it was a fun time. It was a learning experience for sure. And then once we got D and Gio in the band, everything just like, because they're my friends, and they've been my friends for like 5 years, and we all just clicked immediately. It felt solid, it felt right. Like, writing with them feels awesome. Like, it's so much fun, and we have so much fun at every single show that we play, any tour or anything. It's just fun. Like, that's been our main thing through all of this, is just we're just here to like have a fucking good time. So it's been a journey for sure. I personally have learned a lot from Give Way, and just as a writer and as a vocalist, I've heard myself progress with the way that I do vocals. I felt it with my writing style. I try to always like kind of push myself to like think a little bit differently with how I write stuff. And I love it because all of us have a say in everything in the music we write. Like, everybody writes lyrics, nobody has like a specific job that they do or whatever. You do this and you do this and you do this. We all like come together and we write together. And if I'm stuck writing something, they'll help me out. Or if they want to write like a song, like, I'd let them take the reins on that. And we all just feed off of each other. So it's really fun. It's a very good like creative space to be in.
Yeah. And that's really cool. Like, there's a few things to break down there, but starting at
just kind of rambled and gave it a whole.
No. I appreciate, you know, kind of going off of that. And yeah, let's break it down. So, yeah, I think it is really cool. Just like how, like you were saying, like you had always wanted to be in band. And I think, you know, when you go to shows, you see someone on stage and they're like performing a certain way or they're talking about a certain way. You're like, yeah, that's what I want to do. Like you see a video, you know, Machine Gun Benny came on the podcast and he was talking about when he was watching videos of Travis Barker and he's like, I want to do that. So when you're in
Travis Barker.
Yeah. So I think when you're in, you know, not just even hardcore, but music in general, there is like that, like, oh, like I want to do that. And it's just a matter of like figuring out like, how do I do vocals? How do I like, you know, play the drums like this, or how do I do double kicks? So it's this like, you know, maybe in your mind it's actually a huge mountain to climb, but I think in hardcore it like breaks down some of the standards, if that makes sense. Because you know, with certain things it's like, oh, if you're playing out of tune, that's like the worst thing, or if like you're not practice and you stop, that's the worst thing. But like in hardcore, there's been so many times where I've seen that, and bands will just be like, oh, let's just start again, or you know, it's actually not as big a deal. So I think that's really it's really cool how, you know, you kind of saw that through and were able to kind of officially grab the mic and do it like full time. You know, not
just got to do it.
Yeah.
That's really it. You just got to do it. You just got to do it. That's what I have to tell myself every time, because I mean, it's nerve-wracking, and especially trying a new thing that you've never ever done before. You got to do it. And like the reason behind everything, like whenever I would go to shows and, you know, it was really like the meanings behind the songs that people were singing and like the aggression behind it was something that was really like captivating to me. I was like, man, they're singing about stuff that I would have never thought to even let anybody know, you know, like I would never let anybody into like that side of my brain or whatever. So that was really cool to me. But also like the aggression, it was like, you know, in hardcore it's very aggressive and like in your face, and people are angry or whatever, and so you see them up there getting their anger out, and then you meet them and they're like the nicest people in the world. So I really saw it as like an outlet for sure. Like it was a way that I could express myself and like maybe the deeper feelings that I have without it being so like, without having like an intimate conversation with somebody. You know what I mean? Like having those conversations are really difficult. So it was a way that I could talk about the things that I deal with regularly and get it out in, I feel like, a healthy way.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and I think
I learned a lot.
Yeah, I think it's really cool how like a lot of the things, I've never actually thought about it that way, where it's like, I don't think a lot of the things that people have written hardcore songs about would just be as upfront if they were just having one-on conversation with me. But because it's through music and it's through art, it's like, you know, expression. Yeah, it's like the invitation to be vulnerable and like scream that to like a room full of, you know, 20, 100, 10,000 people, whatever it is. I thought it was interesting how you brought it up, and I didn't know this about you, that I guess you said you were a writer first before you were kind of doing music. So has that always kind of been, you know, something that you felt fulfillment in, and then when it came time to like taking words and applying it to music? Because I've met people where it's like, oh, this is the first time I actually like writing my feelings for a band. So talk to me about that.
Well, it's the first time I've ever done anything as far as like having to write songs, and like there's a lot of pressure whenever you know that people are going to be reading it as well. So whenever I would write, I wrote as like a kid all the way up until like I did actually join a band and find like a purpose, I guess, for my writing. But I never really took like myself seriously as a writer. I just knew that like I liked to imagine writing songs, and I would sit in my notes app and like write stuff. And I really like pen and paper too. A lot of the songs that I write even today, I do like pen and paper because it feels personal. And really just to like sort through my thoughts and like how I feel and what I'm thinking, and to just like look at it. And I feel like I personally have a hard time putting my thoughts and my feelings into words. So it was a way for me to practice that and like learn more about it and like process it. So I did a bit of writing beforehand, not seriously, but just as a way to kind of see it all and, you know, process things. Um, but I feel like writing for a band is so much different. There's a whole new like kind of like a little bit of pressure, and you want to make sure everything sounds right, and you also have, you know, 4 or 5 other people that have influence on that writing, so you have to think about that too. And so it's a lot different, but it's helped me push myself as a writer. I really like think about what I'm writing, and it's opened me up to like a new style of writing and finding new words and new ways to like rhyme things and everything.
Yeah.
It's helped a lot.
Yeah, and I think as far as you saying like finding a purpose for your writing, like it's I think that especially with the day and age that we live in now, where there's a lot of focus on like mental health and making sure you're checking that on a constant basis, and everyone has different struggles with that, but I think for me, it's always been like I have these thoughts in my head, and sometimes, like you said, like putting it on paper actually like makes it more real, or makes it kind of
Yeah.
like less messy up here.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you're like, whether you have ideas or you have like feelings, even if you're not doing it for a band per se, if you just have like notebooks with stuff that you can get out, and then you can see that, and either it could do a number of things. It could either be like, oh, now that I'm actually writing that down, I have a new realization about this situation. Either I'm overthinking it, or I am like critical, like in thinking this way about this topic, whatever it is. And yeah, sometimes it is cool to like whenever I'm doing stuff in my notebooks, I'll always date it. So if I have an idea and then that comes to fruition years on end, I'm like, holy shit, like I wrote this on a Thursday in, December or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think, having the phone and doing the notes app is like really good as far as like, that's what I'm doing for this podcast here. But like having stuff in pen and paper is crucial, and it is a step, is the difference for the technology side of things. So
Yeah. I think that the notes app type of writing is good for like when you're at work and you like think of something and it sounds cool, or like something that rhymes that sounds good, or like an idea for a song or whatever, like whip my phone out and just like jot it down real quick, and then I come back to it later. I think that writing like pen and paper is just important in general. Some people it doesn't work for them, but I think that instead of, for me anyways, like the way that I like to write is I like to set aside like dedicated time to writing without any goal in mind, just kind of like getting whatever I'm feeling in the moment out on a piece of paper, just like word vomit, basically, just like go see where it goes. There's no real like point to it or anything. It's like writing just without the pressure. And then I'll come back and look at it, and I'll pick out like pieces that I like that sounded good, or whatever, ideas for songs or whatever, and then I'll kind of roll off of that. I'm the type that I'll be writing like 5 songs at one time, because I'll have different ideas, but I can't sit down and just write a full song, which
sure.
I know a lot of people that can do that, and I have the utmost respect, because I cannot do it. It takes me weeks, sometimes months, to finish like one song, just because I get so stuck in like my writer's block, and I'll sit there and just stare at it and like overthink it, and just go over it over and over and over. So
yeah, but I
can never
think,
get it down.
How you said, like, you just have to start, even whether it's starting to go down the path of like, how does my vocal sound, and trying that in your car with no one in the room. But at the same time, I feel like it's sometimes easier, versus being intimidated by the blank canvas, like just to write something, and then that will like start the process of like
effect.
Yeah, exactly, like all it takes. And that's no different if you're writing something on a notebook, or if you're trying to design something on Photoshop and you're like, I don't know what the fuck to do. So I think
you just gotta start poking it a little bit.
Yeah.
Just gotta see what happens.
Yeah, but I think it, like, I do like that idea that you said, like, having time dedicated to doing that versus like, oh, I'm feeling inspired about this, you know, this bad day I had or this thing that I saw in the news or whatever, and now I'm going to write a song or an album about it. It's like, if you're, you know, I feel like tap into those inclinings, you know, that's like your heart kind of like fueling some of the music. But at the same time, if you're only doing that, and maybe that only happens once a month, there's not as much of an output of that. So
yeah, I agree. Cause I think that if you're, not that I'm not saying that you shouldn't be like inspired by the things around you and you shouldn't look for things to inspire you. I think that that's like really, really important. But also, if you wait for something to inspire you, you know, things get in the way, life gets busy, you know, you could be running on autopilot for months at a time and you haven't written a thing. Because I mean, that's what happens with me a lot of the time too, is like I'll just get so busy and I'll be like, oh, I'll write when I feel inspired. And then I won't look for something or find something that inspires me for months, and then I haven't written anything in months. And then I actually sit down with my pen and paper, and because I haven't done it in so long, I have no idea what I'm doing. It feels like I'm starting fresh. Yeah. So I think even if you don't have a subject, you don't have a specific thing you need to write about, or you're feeling the most uninspired you've ever felt in your life, I think it's important to just kind of keep those gears turning a little bit and like keep up the creative side. And it's just good for your mental health.
Yeah, you got to oil the machine. So
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I think it's good to like keep up with it.
Yeah, I really think that, you know, I'm sure that at least one person listening to this is like, oh yeah, that is something. And, you know, that's a constant hope for me for this podcast, is like to talk about the things around music and other things. But hopefully people are listening to this and like actually taking something to apply in their own lives. Something else I wanted to ask. So, you know, Snow and Flurry 2019 was the first time that we got to cross paths and filmed a set of you and put it out on the channel. And I think I knew prior that Steven from 197 had filmed you guys at not the 2020 LDB, but the one beforehand, 2019. And then I just started to go through the rabbit hole of like, oh, like, you know, these Giveaway has been kind of filmed by like some of the, I would say like the more notable archivists in the world. So Hey56, obviously, 197 and Scoped. And then the only ones that I couldn't kind of think about, or I guess I don't think you guys had that opportunity, is being filmed by my friend David Tan in the UK, or other ones. And I noticed that most of the time when these, you know, sets came out, you guys, you know, there's always bands that I'll post something and they'll either just throw it up on their story or they'll post it. But, you know, some stuff that you guys really were like, no, we want to, you know, promote this and use that as an opportunity to push the band that much more. So was that just like, you know, something from the get-go, or I'm just kind of curious if you could share how an archivist like myself or Sonny or Steven, creating a piece of content has affected a band like you guys.
It's been a bit like surreal for us every time anybody asks to film us at all. We're very grateful for like every opportunity that we've ever gotten, and it's like, I don't know, it's very like nerve-wracking and kind of like, it's surreal. Like it opens up a lot of stuff for us because, you know, it brings in people from all over the place to just check us out. Like, I know that you mentioned that just from the Scoped Exposure set from Snow and Flurry, you had like people message you that hadn't heard of us before. And like, it's just that alone is like, we'll get messages from people and they're like, oh, I saw your video here. I saw your video here. Like, I never heard of you guys before, and you guys are one of my favorite bands now. And that's something that is like really, really cool that I've noticed, is because all of us are very inactive, I feel like, on social media.
Sure.
like none of us really have Twitter. There's a Giveaway Twitter, but nobody uses it. And, you know, I recently like made a new Instagram, and we all kind of stay pretty low key and we never post, and we honestly forget about the Giveaway social media. So we're not really good about like keeping up with it. So whenever we get the opportunity and somebody wants to film us and like throw our setup, that's like one of the only forms of like promotion that we really get, I feel like, and that's like our own fault. But And like, I don't know. I don't know. It's kind of a tough question a bit, because
Yeah.
to
I
me it's just like it's just like it opens up a whole new world for us. It feels like. I don't know if I'm answering your question
No,
right.
no, I think that's kind of what I was kind of curious on, because it's always this constant thing. Like, I think the 2021 hardcore space that we'll be entering has been probably the best, I guess, respect for people that archive shows, but there are still people in the world who think because I put a set on YouTube that I'm making hundreds, if not thousands of dollars. I'm like, you do
Yeah.
not know how YouTubers
Common
think.
common misconception.
But Sonny has said it multiple times. If he films one set of a band and one person who watches that video goes and pre-orders a record or buys a shirt,
That's
that
what makes
has
it
made
like worth it.
Yeah, exactly. And like you were saying, it's kind of like people are looking to me or other people that film shows as not like tastemakers necessarily, because at least for me or people like Sonny, we kind of just like will film whatever, all the bands at whatever shows that we are at. There's not like oh, this band is has a weird vibe, I'm probably not going to film it. So there's this constant thing where people are looking to us to kind of find out about new music. Obviously, I've filmed Stepping Stone more times than I can count, but when a new band comes up, I'll like write about it and kind of share my thoughts. And like you said, a lot of people were just like, yo, this band's really sick, out of all the bands that I filmed from Snow and Flurry. So for me, that's fulfilling in the sense like I got to put Give Way onto my friends from Ottawa all the way to Vancouver. But you guys also get that as well, so that when if and when Give Way ever comes up to Canada, it's not just like a fish out of water. It's like there's some reference points there. Yeah.
That's why I think like it's so important, because also, you don't think about some people, and like especially younger kids, they don't have like the opportunities to go to shows, or they can't. Some of them just sit at home all day and they watch live sets or whatever, so it's the only way they find out about anything. And I know that, just like that's what I used to do, is like that's how I found a lot of my bands, is I would scroll through YouTube or whatever, or Facebook or whatever, and like people would post live sets or music videos. Music videos were a really big deal, and that's how I would find new music, was just sitting on the computer all day long and just letting my YouTube kind of play through and like watch live sets of bands that I did know about, which would lead to seeing a set from this band and this band and this band and this band, and that's how I would find new music. So I think it's really important and it's really cool, and anytime we get the chance to like have one of our sets posted, it's the same thing every time. We always hear from somebody that's like, I never heard of you guys before, you guys are really cool, and that alone makes it all like worth it.
Yeah.
And I think it's really important, because for some people it's all they got. They can't really go to shows.
Yeah. I think not realizing that, or realizing that not every one thing as far as discovering new music is the thing for everyone. Like some people get nerdy about going to a record store and just perusing through all these different records.
Everybody's got their thing.
Yeah, some people want to watch music videos. Some people want to just be like, today is Hate 56 Day, and I'm just going to spend 18 hours just looking through the website. But I think, at least what I think social media does is like creating breadcrumb trails, as far as like, hey, here's a little snippet of the set and then you can go watch it. Here's a snippet of this podcast and you can go listen to it. So yeah, I think I mainly want to just hit on that, mainly because I've seen you guys like really, realize the opportunity of like pumping someone up versus just like, here's your reshare or whatever.
Yeah.
Because I think it's a win for both people when there is that like, realization where, it is this kind of flooding of two audiences that come together, and then there's spill off for each. So
yeah, I think with like this year, especially with everybody being at home and not being able to do anything, and man, I know I speak for a lot of people when like I say that shows are a big part of people's lives. And me and Gio, I think we're just talking about this the other day, how like you know, you could be having a bad day or you had a bad day at work or whatever, but at the end of the day, you'd go to a hardcore show or whatever and you'd see all your friends and you'd forget about whatever you were mad about 2 hours ago.
Right.
And so it's a good escape for a lot of people, and not being able to really have that for the last year has been something.
Yeah.
It's been something. I mean, I think a lot of people have like had to find other things to do, which I think that's a good side of it, is people are like being creative and getting a lot more personal and like learning a lot more about themselves, and bands are writing music and pumping out songs, and that's fantastic. But not having shows is like a really weird thing. So we'll all like sit at my house or whoever's house, and like we'll start going down like a live set loophole, and we'll just watch like, oh, let's watch this set and let's watch this one and let's watch this one. Oh my God, that set was so much fun. And we'll just go down this whole thing of telling stories and talking about it. And it gets like, I don't know, it hits like a spot, because it's like, man, like it's another way to like relive it. And
Sure,
it hits different when you haven't had it for the last year.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think like a job of mine is like, you know, when you go to a show, you know, we'll just use Snow and Flurry for an example. Everyone has their different like vantage point. You know, either they're at the back of the room, they're at the very front of their side stage, they're playing, so they're on stage. Everyone has these different viewpoints, but you know, with having multiple cameras and different, you know, pans and things like that, I can kind of tell at least my perspective of how that set went. Everyone can kind of be like, oh, like, and so it's so crucial for me to be like, to catch that stage dive, or to catch like that guest vocal spot, or someone like, you know, doing some weird dance to this one, like, you know, groovy part or whatever. So I think that all plays a part. And yeah, it definitely hits right now when you're looking at stuff and you're like, man, like even when a band is doing like any of like Sunny's like streams, it's like, oh man, like I would just be throwing down to this riff or whatever. So
yeah, I'd love to be there right now.
Yeah.
Rather than sitting in my room like I have been.
Yeah, I'm trying to be at least optimistic. You know, I'm not sure of the actual like time frame of maybe when a vaccine comes into play and people feel safe that they can, you know, the restrictions are lifted and shows can happen. People feel safe enough to congregate and do that. But I think everyone, they were talking about this on Instagram, but I think everyone is just very much looking forward to having a very fun oriented hardcore show. So, you know, I think the band that they used was like a Turnstile vibe kind of show. Just people just going absolutely bonkers.
Just having fun.
Yeah.
That's my favorite part about, like, especially rewatching like live sets or like anything. Like we'll sit and watch like the Snow and Flurry sets, and like we'll sit and tell stories, and like you look off into the corner and you can see like your group of friends and they're just like smiling, and you haven't seen some of your friends smile like that in like so long. And it feels good. It's like it feels good to like see people just genuinely having like a great time, like a good time, and being like fully themselves, not worried about anything. You know, you're just here with your friends and you're having a good time and you're dancing and you're grooving, and it's fun. It's fun. I think it's really important.
Yeah. And I feel like that is a perfect segue into this other question I have. So I have to applaud you, because I really dig the stage presence that you have alongside of when you play in Give Way. I think that's such a crucial thing, not only for someone who plays guitar, bass, or whatever, but for vocalists as well. And I was thinking about this today, and I think this could be a fun rabbit hole that we go down, is a lot of vocalists will just like, you know, do the mosh call, or, you know, trying to control the crowd, like side to side, like all that kind of cliche stuff. But I'm kind of curious, is a vocalist who's kind of almost moshing on stage a better way to get the crowd excited about, you know, a certain part in a song versus just saying fucking kill each other or whatever?
For me, like I always I've had the same, my anxiety has never gone away before a show. I still feel just as nervous as like my first show as I do at every single show, just because it's people and you gotta like yell, and you know what if I'm ugly or something, like just something so stupid. And so for me, it's like I have a really bad habit of like I won't face like the crowd. I feel like that's like something that when I do that, I just want to like look at like my bandmates and I just kind of think about it. And I'm like, man, we're all here. These are my best friends. We're having a good time. Like, I'm just going to vibe and dance. Oh no. Oh God.
What's happening? Oh, you got
I turned on my windshield wipers.
I was like, oh no, is some
Minor
like
setback.
car coming behind you or something? But oh, was it dragging over the ice?
No, they're just on.
I don't even know if you have snow down there right now.
It's actually supposed to snow here tomorrow. Let me see if I can turn this off real quick. Sorry if you have to like cut this out.
No,
this is going to be really annoying.
Unless you want me to. Sometimes like I try to keep the podcast just like the live sets, like one
big stream.
This is the very first time there's been a car malfunction on the podcast. So
it's because I hit it. I like talk with my hands, so I've been like holding the steering wheel, so I'm not like in your face.
No, you're fine.
But what was I saying?
We were talking about
if that's making a noise, it's fine. Whatever.
You're all good.
Just let it do its thing.
I think we were talking about like you were talking about anxiety for when you're playing a show, and then you're like, oh yeah, we're all here, we're having a good time. Yeah.
So I'm not really like a mosh call type of person. Like it doesn't bother me or anything when other people do it. I think it's sick personally, but it's just never been my thing. So I just like to like groove and have a good time, and like I'm there with my friends, and I see other people moshing, and I want to mosh and I want to dance and I want to have a good time, and it also just helps like loosen me up a bit, so I'm not as like pent up and like nervous. So if I can just like have a good time and vibe and like see my friends and then like look at all my other friends that are at the show and like they're having a good time and they're smiling at me, like it just makes me want to just groove with them, really. I just want to have a good time with them.
No, I think it is really interesting because I think that is something you're seeing more of probably in the last year or so. And maybe I'm just being a little ignorant. Maybe there was bands doing on stage dancing while in between lines or whatever, but I do think that it does. Like some people aren't like, why would I say like all these certain things when it's like I'll just this is a two-step, so I would be two-stepping to this riff anyways. Like I feel like most hardcore bands, like, and I'm guilty of this myself, like my 2020 like Spotify recap was just like my band's demo. I'm like, ooh, like maybe really? I'm not gonna share that, but like I think I think a lot of people, they're writing the music that they would want to hear or like, be at the show to. So
why wouldn't you want to dance to it?
Exactly.
That's like our thing behind it is anytime we're writing music or anything, like we all just want to write just like groovy parts or like fun two-step parts that we would be like, oh shit, like that's fun as hell. Like I want to dance to that. So whenever you're playing a show and you're there with all your friends and whatever, like why wouldn't you like just have a good time? So I think that sometimes people take themselves a little bit too seriously on stage. Just have fun. That's why we're there.
It was funny when I was watching the Hate 56 set of yours just before we were doing this podcast, and I think it's always funny the in between moments between songs, because Sunny and any true archivist isn't gonna cut any like of the stuff in the middle unless it's like very, very uncomfortable. Like I've filmed sets where someone breaks a string and then the guitar change over time of like 5 minutes.
There for like 10 minutes.
I'm like, maybe I'll just snip this, but most of the time it's like, it's cool to hear the banter from people to the homies and things like that. But anyways, you were I think it was like from the Promcore show, and you were like, oh, it's like, oh God, it's like really hot in here, and then like Aaron hit the drum beat and you start dancing immediately. I'm like
I watch that set all the time. It's one of my favorite sets that we have, and specifically in the middle of one, my mic stopped working, and you can hear Gio was like, just take my mic, and you can hear me walk up to it and go, that one's fucking broken too. And I tried to put it back on and I was like, shit.
Right. Yeah.
So
I think in the moment there's like those things that happen that you don't intend for, and then in the moment you're like, oh man, why did I do that? Why did I say that? But then like you watch it back and it's just that much funnier that like you can watch it in a year, 10 years, 5 years and be like, man, that really happened. I remember one time we were playing and we were gonna we were ending our set with a Hatebreed cover, and I totally blanked. I'm like, yeah, thanks for coming out. And I like unplugged my guitar, and then I looked, and everyone's like, dude, we have one more song. And I was just like, oh shit. Like, and I look back at that, I'm just like, oh, you big dummy. But like, it is funny that happened. Yeah.
I do that all the time. We have like a handful of covers that we've played before. We haven't covered like a full song, but we'll just cover like our favorite parts of songs. And so randomly at the end of a set, I'll like be like, all right, thanks, like we're good way, blah blah blah, be safe, have a good night. And then I'll turn around and I can see like D and Gio and Danny like giving each other the look, and I'm like, oh no. Right. And then they'll start playing like whatever, System of a Down or something, and I'm like, there we fucking go.
Yeah, you're like, oh right, one more, okay.
Right, it's fine.
Yeah. That's so funny. All right, well, Laremy, I think we can start to wrap up things here on the pod. The last question I ask all of my guests is a favorite mosh story that they would like to share. So that doesn't necessarily need to be like something that you did happen to you. It could be something that you saw at a show that just stuck with you. Whatever is the first thing to your mind is kind of how we end it here.
Oh God. I have so many.
I know.
It's the entirety of Snow and Flurry, like every single
so
set,
much. Yeah.
Every single band, because like all of us, especially us from Oklahoma, like I feel like we were moshing the entire time, the whole time, and so we have so many moments we were just like, oh my God, almost breaking my ankle at LDB.
Oh,
that was a good time. Oh, sorry if my camera went out. My phone battery is running a little bit low.
It's okay.
Yeah, I almost broke my ankle. Oh, I got one.
Okay.
So it was Flyover. I think I talk about this story all the time. I think it was Flyover, and it was during Upright. And so before we went, or maybe it was a prom corps. I don't remember. It was at the Vanguard in Tulsa, and that was when everybody was drinking like Bang. Oh, and they're telling me about like Bang, like, oh, you should drink Bang. And I drink Bang a little bit after that, so it's whatever now. But at the time, I didn't even really drink much caffeine to begin with. I would have like coffee and whatever. And so somebody was like, you should just drink half of it and then drink the other half in like a few minutes. But we were on our way there, and I couldn't take my drink inside, so I chugged the whole thing. Oh, no. And then I forgot about it. I forgot that I drank a Bang, because I was like, oh, we're at the show now, it's fine, whatever, we're gonna have a good time. And then Upright played, and I remember in the middle of Upright's set, I'm like moshing, doing my thing, and I feel like my entire chest get warm, and like my heart's like beating really fast, and my eyes got big, and I was like, what the fuck is going on? And I walked outside, and I like went up to my friend. I was like, I think I'm dying right now. Like, I don't know what's going on. Something's happening. Like, my heart's about to explode. And they're like, you drank a Bang. And I'm like, oh, whatever. So that's always a story that I look back on, just because in the moment I thought I was gonna.
Yeah, you felt like you were having an out of body experience. Like your heart was literally gonna bang and explode.
Those things are kind of scary. But then there's just multiple times where like your friends do something stupid, or you almost break your bones and whatever. I moshed with like I fractured my ankle at LDB, and I fractured it at the pre-show. And I moshed the entire weekend on a fractured ankle. I was rubbing like icy hot on it just to like numb it up so I wouldn't feel it.
You're like the band's like tuning, and you're just in the corner with the icy hot.
In the corner, like pulling my Converse down, like putting icy hot on, and then it would just start stinging and burning, and I couldn't feel it. So I was like, I'm good now. I can't feel anything. I don't even remember having feet.
What is feet?
I don't know. They're numb.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that we got to do that, because I know sometimes, I think if a listener is like, oh, they talked about the ankle story, but I'm glad that we got two for the price of one. So that's very sick.
Yeah. Mosh stories are always so hard for me, because there's a million. I could tell a million.
I could literally just have an episode that's just call in and it just tell me a mosh story. And that could be the whole show. Man,
you could. Exactly.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
I might have to do that. Well, Laremy,
it's like a separate thing.
Yeah, this has been a blast. Like, I don't just say this because you're on the podcast, but I'm very glad that we got to cross paths and get a set of yours. And I've been, very much anticipating the next time that we can do that, whether it's us coming down to your neck of the woods or you coming up to our neck of the woods. Anything that you want to shout out, plug, any giveaway things you want to tease at the end of the episode here. The floor is yours for whatever you want to share.
Support mass movement, community arts.
Okay.
Tune into those. Aaron has been doing some live streams as of recently.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Some bands. Yeah. So some bands will come up here, and he sets up a little area at Mass Movement, which is our little DIY venue that we have here, and films the set like normal. And then it gets like edited and everything, and you pay like basically the price of like a show, like $5, $7, and he puts it up for, I think he's been doing like 48 hours, like two or 3 days, and he's got a number of different bands. I think Omen had one, Ballista had one. I think he's got some other bands.
Fury has one coming up.
Fist of Fury has one coming out. A few other bands that I don't want to, they're not ready to like announce it yet.
Right. Yeah.
But I'm sure that it'd be fine if I we are planning on doing one. So keep an eye out for that.
Yeah.
Don't know when. I haven't done vocals in like 6 months, and I got back into it, and it's so hard getting back into straining your voice like that. So we've been like keeping up with regular practices. We are writing. So we'll have some new music coming out, live stream. But yeah, tune into those live streams, support your local venue because they are struggling right now more than anything. I've seen so many venues that have had to close down. So donate, anything, support your local music scene.
Yeah, definitely. All the mass movement stuff will be in the description of the video and the show notes. But yeah, I'm glad that you plugged that, because I've unfortunately had to see the same, where either venues, big and small, are struggling. And as soon as we get the green light to have shows again, we need to have those venues.
Yeah.
Not everyone has a house that they're willing to have all these strangers come in, especially post pandemic. So yeah, we got to keep the venues here and support those people.
Oh yeah, but we're not gonna have shows when shows are. By the time everyone's fine and it's safe again, we're not gonna have anywhere to go.
Yeah. Well, so let's be the change of that. Laremy, thank you again for coming on the podcast and jamming with me. This has been a blast.
Yeah, thank you for having me.